Hi everyone, Tony Donkin here. Glad you could be with me to talk about something that I think is bloody important, which you may not think is important at all, but I don't know if I really care all that much. But I'm going to talk about a woman by the name of Sharri Markson. Now, most of you wouldn't know who Sharri is unless you're lucky enough or unlucky enough, as the case might be, to watch Sky News. So here in Australia, Sharri apparently has got some sort of a reputation, primarily because she's on Sky News, because at one point she interviewed Donald Trump. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that Sharri Markson is a right-wing journalist, or so-called journalist. I'm not too sure whether she actually is a journalist, makes out she's a journalist, pretends to be a journalist, not too sure. But I was interested because the Australian produced an article on her. Now, in case you don't know what she looks like, this is her. So this is Sharri, looking very cool there, and so they wrote this opinion piece on Sharri that I thought was quite interesting. Firstly, I was wondering to myself, which is something I quite often do, why is it that they're doing this piece on Sharri? What's the big deal about her? And there is none, apart from she did this interview. Don't know whether she's won any journalist awards. Don't really care, for that matter. But it was interesting that this piece that they wrote on her went on for ages. So it tells about how she went viral because of this interview she did with Trump. You know, any jerk could do an interview with Trump and still get a lot of views, I guess. So and a lot of other stuff. Her sitting down, looking very pretentious, which I think she does. Her looking very pregnant, which clearly she has done at one point. And so it goes on. It goes on forever. There's the interview with Trump. Who cares? But you know. So it's bloody boring. But what does it mean that the press, particularly I guess the Murdoch press, what does it mean that they're making such a big deal of someone like Sharri Markson? Well, I don't know, but I am interested to know why it is they see her as being this new star. Maybe it's because now she's got her own show on Sky. Maybe it's because she's just a right-wing pundit and that she's young, relatively attractive, and perhaps that has some appeal, they believe, to the media here in Australia. So I'm going to watch Sharri from now on to see where she's going. Now, her major other claim to fame was she wrote a book, I think, on Wuhan and the development of the virus, her claiming, as do a lot of right-wingers, that it came from a lab in Wuhan and that it therefore was humanly developed, and that this has developed a whole conspiracy theory. I think that the jury's kind of out a little bit on where the virus came from, even though there's a whole bunch of scientists now who say that it came from the wet market in Wuhan. So, and perhaps the scientific community may be a bit divided on that because no one can prove one way or the other. But this is how she also made a name for herself, by advocating that the virus came from from the Wuhan laboratory. So, so that be it as it may, this doesn't necessarily mean that she's a journalist of note. And so what I did was I took a little bit of a clip from, this is from straight after the election, and I think this may demonstrate a little bit more about which side of politics she actually does sit. So let's have a look.
As a result of this teal movement and the election result, the parliament is actually less diverse than before. If you look at the people who we've lost Josh Frydenberg, Jewish, Jason Falinski, the son of an immigrant.
Why I'm highlighting this particular segment about Sharri is that rather than saying this is also a diverse parliament, it's changed in in the way it looks, this is true, but she's pointing out how diverse it was under the Liberal government. It wasn't all that diverse. You know, when you look at the number of women in Parliament now that Labor's in, it's far more diverse than it was. And now she's talking about all those people that were part of this diverseness that the right think is just absolutely fabulous. And they want to celebrate it all the time. And here she is telling us that there's a bit of a conflict there because all of these diverse people got kicked out.
It was a Russian Jew, 2 gays in Trent Zimmerman and Tim Wilson gone, many female Liberal MPs, including Gladys Liu, Katie Allen, Amanda Stoker gone, and other multicultural candidates in David Sharma, Michael Sukkar, Gladys Liu, Zed Seselja also look to be gone. Instead, we're seeing this influx of white, wealthy women in the Parliament who seem to stand for nothing but climate change.
Right, so here we are. So this lends itself to her rightness and the fact that she sees now that these wealthy women. So what she's referring to are the Teal candidates, who, even though they're diverse in themselves, and because they're left-leaning in relation to climate change in particular, and the general view on what it is that they represent, because they're more grassroots than the lofty Liberal Party or even the union-orientated left, I guess. But she sees them as a threat. So when it comes to looking at reasonable journalists, one has to wonder where their biases sit. Now, I guess there's a lot of journalists out there who could say they sit on one side of the fence or the other, and perhaps that's a fair comment to make. But number one, Sharri works for Sky News. So because she's working for Sky News, does this automatically mean that she sits on the right of politics? Well, it probably does. So are her views going to be expressed in terms of the way Murdoch would like them to be expressed? Yes, they are. This was evident when she either interviewed Trump or when she chose to advocate for the theory that the COVID virus was transmitted via human contact through the Wuhan Research Centre. So I am sceptical of where this woman is going. I'm even now more sceptical given that massive article that was in the Weekend Australian written about her. So watch this space. There'll be more opportunities to talk about Sharri and some of the most bizarre comments that she's going to make into the future. And all of this stuff that I'm talking about now is on the back of what's happened in the US in relation to Fox News and the disclosure of where those people now sit, you know, Hannity, Tucker Carlson and others, where they sit in relation to what they actually believe and what they actually tell their audience. This is a question now that we're all going to have to ask is, what do these people actually believe? Now, if someone sits on the left and we know what they actually believe, then that's a good thing. And on the right, if we know actually what they believe, that's a good thing. But if a news network is trying to sell us an individual and try to convince us that we should be thinking, or their group of people or their viewers should be thinking in a certain way, then we need to be sceptical. But I mean, this is why I think we need to be sceptical of someone like Sharri Markson, because I think she's up there with the Laura Ingrams and the others in this world who are out to sell herself as opposed to selling the reports that she makes and the truth and the facts in particular that sit behind those reports. So watch this space and let's see whether or not some of that comes to fruition. And I would like you to consider subscribing to my channel and ring the bell for future notifications. Thanks everybody, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly everybody, be safe.